The faith of Mother Theresa has been in the news of late. Perhaps you've heard of how on the 10th anniversary of her death, the community started releasing many of the letters she had written to her spiritual directors over the years. And one of the things that many have found surprising is how hard faith was for her. She would say that God seemed so far away and prayer was so dry and empty. There were times when it was hard for her to even believe that there was a God at all. This woman, whom many called a living saint, who spent time every day in prayer and poured out her life in service, struggled mightily with her faith. She said in those 50 years, there was one 5-week period when she felt like God was there, when there was closeness with God that she could sense. But that was it. The rest of the time was this excruciating loneliness in prayer, when the one to whom she had dedicated her life seemed silent and distant. In part, that is the reality of every relationship. Us to God, us to one another. Look, for example, at those who are married. Is it not true that the first stage is usually falling in love? It's such a wonderful, intoxicating time. And when you are in love, music on the radio sounds different. But that changes. Ask anybody who's been married, say, 3 weeks or more. Just maybe not quite as fun, huh? Yeah, it's all long been a wisdom that love is mostly a decision. When we are in love, we can hardly help it. But now it's not quite as easy and quite as fun. And it is not only just as much love when we don't feel in love, it's a truer and deeper love, because then we are choosing it. Relationships change. Father, she doesn't quite look the way she used to 25 years ago. Gravity is a force to be reckoned with. Our Alzheimer's has started to take him away from me in many ways. Or she hasn't spoken since she was in the accident. How often I have seen the beauty of a real love when couples in that time find a way to keep working through, to forgive, to hang in there, to serve each other. To me, that is a beautiful, though sometimes lonely, love. And so it is with faith. Part of the beauty of the faith of Mother Teresa for me was that it didn't feel good. That she remained true to prayer. That she remained true to the values in the one named Jesus with her life, even when it seemed like darkness and desolation. In the first reading today, we hear that she's one of a long line of holy people who felt that emptiness. The prophet hears this promise from God. The vision still has its time, presses on to fulfillment, and will not disappoint. But the prophet calls out, yeah? Well, how long, O Lord, must I wait? I cry for help, but you do not listen. I cry out, but you do not help. the prophet knows that same emptiness of feeling like God is far away. Oh, I hear the great promise, but I don't sense in my gut its fulfillment on any level. My brothers and sisters, faith is primarily a choice and a gift. Now, we can do stuff to make faith harder, fill ourselves with all kinds of stuff that keeps us far from what is best in us. Or we can do that which cultivates faith. You're here because you want to be open to the Holy One and to nurture that faith. And we pray in our homes and we reach out in service. And all of that is important and crucial. But we still can't make it happen. Nor can we, no matter what we do, give ourselves necessarily that sense of the presence of God. When we have that, good, enjoy it, savor it, because you can't manufacture that. Ask Mother Theresa, A priest friend of mine, very talented, holy, good man, has preached many funerals in his priesthood. But when his own mother died, he found it really hard to believe, surprisingly to himself, that there really was life after death. He said, I just doubt now. And I've got to go preach a funeral, but there's a part of me which wonders. And it was very painful to him. He says that every night he rates how faith felt for him that day on a scale of 1 to 10. And some days it's like a 7 or 8 or 9, where it just felt like God was right there. It was easy to sense. And there was a flow and a beauty to his prayer and his living. And so the other nights, it was like a 2 or a 3. He just was hanging on, trusting, choosing to trust, even when he didn't feel it. For me, my struggle has not really been so much, is there a God? My struggle was more, do I really know how to pray? When I would be on retreat with my classmates in the seminary, after the speaker was done and we were to go to our rooms to pray, I would somehow have this sense that my classmates knew how to do this, and I didn't. If you could look in their rooms, you'd see some glow coming from underneath the door. Maybe they'd be sitting about 4 inches above their chair, while I felt like I was talking to myself in the darkness because I didn't know how to do it. Over time, and by the grace of God, I've come to feel more at peace with how I pray. And it is a real gift to me to sense the presence of God in my daily life, and I love it, and I cherish that. Well, I don't know what faith feels like for you these days, but if it feels like easy to sense the presence of God, if it feels like God is there and hears your prayers, and you walk the path side by side with God, and with God in your heart, savor that. Treasure that. What a gift that is. And be very careful to judge those who don't find it so easy. Or, if faith is hard for you now, like the woman last night in the Sacrament of Reconciliation who gave me permission to tell her story, she just said, Father, I feel like I'm going through the motions when I pray. Oh, I pray, but I feel dead inside. And I come to Mass and I believe Jesus is real up on the altar, and I should be excited about that. But I'm not. And she wanted to confess that as sin. I said, I don't think that's sin. I think that's faith. You are a woman of faith. And you're here. And you're doing what you can do. And God willing, someday you will sense again the presence of God, and it will come naturally to you. But it's no less faith now. As a matter of fact, it's a pure form of faith on some level, at least, that you hang in there even when it's hard. And for all who find faith difficult, at some times at least, maybe we take some consolation that the church named Mother Teresa blessed on one of the steps on her way towards canonization, that there would be a saint, Mother Teresa, who for 50 years felt the anguish and loneliness of sensing God silent, far away, and sometimes wondering if there even was one. She was a woman of faith. I'll end with this story, which brings it a little closer geographically. There was a woman and her daughter, red-haired, I'd say about 6 years old, shopping at Target. And as they were coming out, it was just pouring down rain. And a whole group had gathered under the awning there, waiting for it to lessen a little bit. It was raining so bad it would go right over the sewers. They couldn't take it. And the little girl said, "Mom, let's run through the rain." And Mom said, "No." She said, "No, Mom, let's run through the rain." She said, "No, honey, we're not going to run through the rain. We'll just wait till it slows down a bit." So the girl was quiet for about a minute, and she said, "Mom, let's run through the rain." She said, "We'll get soaked if we do." The little girl said, "No, we won't, Mom. It's what you said this morning." The mom said, "I said we would run through the rain and not get wet." And I wrote down what she said so I wouldn't misquote it. She said, "Don't you remember when you were talking to Daddy about his cancer, you said, if God can get us through this, God can get us through anything." And everybody got quiet. And after a pause, Mom said, "Honey, you're absolutely right. Let's run through the rain. If God lets us get wet, well, maybe we just needed washing." And off they ran, smiling and laughing in the rain, getting drenched. A few others followed as well. My brothers and sisters, we can't get through life avoiding all the storms. And sometimes, like that little girl and her mom, we just plunge in and we get soaked. But we choose to try to remember in faith that we are not alone. For Mother Teresa, it never really felt good, or hardly ever did. But she plunged into life's storms quietly, feeling all alone, choosing to trust that she was not. That's faith. Well, hello, old buddy. Shh. Okay. Shh. I'm supposed to be quiet? I'm praying. You're praying. Oh, okay, all right. I can be quiet. Big Al. Big Al. Praying. Okay, well, your praying sounded a little bit like my sleeping, but it's hard. I know. It's sometimes when I would pray, I used to fall asleep more, but you know what I do now? What? I keep my eyes open when I pray, and that helps me keep awake. Is that okay? Oh, it's okay, yeah. There's a number of ways you can pray, and sometimes we have to listen to how to open our prayer a little bit differently so that we can be more aware of the presence of God. Where? All around us. No, yeah. Big Al, God is right here, right now. And if you learn to look rightly, Big Al, you will learn to see God right here in this very moment and in every moment. You've got to learn how to see, Big Al. You don't see. Well, you have to look with your heart, not your eyes. Oh, but Big Al, when it's easy to pray, God is there. When it's hard to pray, God is still there. You just might not notice. What do you think? Go Blues. Sounds like he's given up on the Rams yet, huh? Oh, yeah. Now, boys and girls, I hope that when you pray, you can tell that God is right there. But if it's hard for you sometimes, it's still true. Even when we don't notice, God is right there, always.